At 25, I felt the cold blade pierce my chest 15 times as my friend's betrayal turned my bakery into a bloody nightmare. "You lost, kid," he whispered. Yet 43 years later, I'm here, alive, to tell how I survived their plan to bury me. Before I share this painful story, I ask you to join me. Subscribe and hit the bell to honor survivors like me. Your support gives a voice to those silenced by betrayal, showing the world that our stories matter. Together, we can inspire hope. My name is Clara Morales. I'm 68 years old, and today, sitting on my small balcony in Medellin, I look at the mountains surrounding the city as the aroma of steaming coffee fills the air. It's a ritual I repeat every morning, with this old ceramic mug that reminds me of my mother. The sun shines softly, and the birdsong takes me back to 1980, when I was 25, and my life changed forever. I don't know why God allowed me to get this far, but every day I wake up is a miracle, proof that love and faith can overcome even death. I want to tell you my story, not for pity, but so you can see how a simple woman, like so many others, can rise after falling into the abyss. I grew up in a humble neighborhood in Medellin, in an adobe house with a patio full of colorful flowers that my mother, Luz, tended with devotion. She was a seamstress, a woman with agile hands who sewed dresses for the neighbors while humming cumbia songs. My father, Jose, was a farmer, a quiet man who arrived at dusk with hands rough from working the land. We were poor but happy, with afternoons full of laughter and the smell of guava pastries my mother baked on Sundays. However, when I was 9, something dark marked my life. An older man, a neighbor's friend, abused me in a moment of carelessness. I never told anyone, not even my mother. That secret made me fear men, taught me to look at the world with caution, but also awakened a strength in me I didn't know I had. I learned to hide behind a smile, to work hard so as not to depend on anyone. My dream was always to have my own bakery, to make cakes that would bring joy to people, like the ones my mother prepared for my birthdays. In 1978, at 23, I met Mariana Vargas in a cooking class downtown. Mariana was a sweet girl, with big eyes and an easy laugh, but with an air of insecurity she hid behind jokes. She came from a humble family like me, and dreamed of becoming someone in life. We quickly became friends, sharing recipes, secrets, and plans. Together, we decided to open a bakery. We managed to get a loan with great effort and rented a small place in the neighborhood with a wooden counter, floral curtains, and an old oven that filled the air with the smell of vanilla. We worked from dawn till dusk, baking chocolate cakes, sweet arepas, and guava pastries that the neighbors adored. Mariana was good with numbers, but I was the heart of the business, creating recipes and serving customers with a smile. Everything was going well until Mariana started dating Rafael Gomez, a businessman who owned a clothing store downtown. Rafael was cold, with a gaze that seemed to pierce through you, and he always spoke to me with a tone of superiority that made me uncomfortable. I didn't like him, but Mariana was in love, and I respected her choice, although I felt something in her, changing. In 1980, our partnership broke. Mariana wanted to keep more profits, even though I did most of the work. We argued several times, and one afternoon, at the shop, she yelled that she didn't need my talent, that she could manage the business alone. It hurt, but I decided to go my own way. We dissolved the partnership, and she kept 8,000 pesos she owed me, promising to pay me later. She never did. With the help of Tiago Morales, my boyfriend, and his brother Juan, a young lawyer with a huge heart, I rented a new place for my bakery. Tiago was a cheerful man, with curly hair and a broad smile, who always made me laugh with his jokes. Juan, more serious, believed in my dream and put money in so I could start over. The new place was my pride, painted white with a sign that read Clara's Sweets and a display case full of pastries decorated with sugar flowers. Neighbors, like Don Miguel, an elderly man who lived next door, came every day for coffee and a chat. I felt alive, as if I was finally building something that was completely mine. But something strange began to happen in the weeks leading up to January 12th, 1980. I received anonymous letters signed by a certain Fabiola, asking for specific pastries, and always asking if I would be alone at the bakery. The letters arrived under the door, handwritten with clumsy handwriting that made me nervous. I thought she was a demanding customer, perhaps someone shy who didn't want to show herself. I replied with notes, leaving messages at a nearby bakery where Fabiola said she would pick up the replies. A letter arrived on Tuesday saying that a man had served her and that she preferred a woman because she felt uncomfortable. It seemed strange to me, but I didn't want to appear distrustful. I organized my week to be alone on Friday, sending my assistant, Rosa, home early. I didn't know I was falling into a trap, that every word of those letters was written to lead me to a moment of vulnerability. That Friday dawned sunny, the air filled with the scent of mango tree blossoms in the neighborhood. I arrived at the bakery early, lit the oven, and prepared a tray of sweet arepas. Tiago called me to wish me luck, and Juan stopped by to bring me a box of sugar. I was happy, singing a cumbia song while decorating a birthday cake with white cream. The radio played softly, and the sun entered through the window, illuminating the counter. But when the door opened, something changed. 2 men entered, and the air became heavy, as if a shadow had entered with them. The first to enter was Pedro Sanchez, a tall man with eyes so cold they seemed to have no soul. His eyes scanned the bakery as if he was looking for something more than a cake. The other, Lucas Torres, was shorter, with a nervous face, looking around as if afraid someone would see him. They asked for a large cake, saying it was for a friend's girlfriend. I told them, with my best smile, that I didn't have the size they wanted, that I only had a small one left in the display case. Pedro insisted, approaching the counter, and I saw something in his expression that chilled my blood. It wasn't curiosity, it was rage. I picked up my notebook to take an order, thinking of calling Tiago. But before I could move, I felt a chill, as if the air had stopped. Pedro stepped back and Lucas approached, speaking quickly, asking for prices. I tried to stay calm, but my heart pounded. Something was wrong, very wrong. Suddenly, Pedro grabbed me from behind, his strong hands squeezing my arms. He whispered in my ear with a voice that still haunts me. "You lost, kid." I felt a burning pain in my neck, as if fire was piercing me. It was a knife. I screamed, I struggled, trying to break free, but Lucas held my shoulders, immobilizing me. The second blow came fast, to my chest, and then another, and another. Blood splattered the counter, staining the cakes I had decorated with so much care. My hands were cut as I tried to stop the blade, and the pain was so intense, I could barely breathe. I screamed with all my might, "Please, take everything, but leave me alive." But they didn't listen. They were cold, as if my life was worth nothing. The floor became slippery, and my legs trembled, but something in me refused to give up. I thought of my mother, of her warm embrace, of Tiago, who was waiting for me that night for dinner. I thought of the dream of my bakery, of everything I still wanted to live for. The radio kept playing, a cumbia song that contrasted with the horror. My hands bled, and my right shoe was cut by a knife, but My foot, miraculously, was intact. I fought with everything I had, scratching, kicking, but they were stronger. Then, in the midst of the chaos, when I thought all was lost, I heard a soft voice, like a whisper in my heart. Stop. Pretend you're dead. I don't know if it was God, an angel, or my own desperate soul, but I obeyed. I stopped moving, with my eyes half open, trembling. I felt one last stab in my chest, and then silence. Pedro and Lucas stopped, breathing heavily. I heard Pedro murmur, "That's it, let's go." They took the money from the counter, a display bag with fabric flowers and my notebook, as if to make it look like a robbery. They locked the door, pulled down the metal curtain, and left me there alone, in a pool of blood. The pain was unbearable, as if my body was on fire, but my heart kept beating, weakly, but alive. I dragged myself to the display case, leaving a red trail on the white-tiled floor. Every movement was agony, but I couldn't give up. I pressed my face to the glass, praying someone would see me. Tears mixed with blood, and the world began to fade. I thought of my childhood, of afternoons running among my mother's flowers, of laughing with Mariana before everything changed. I thought I was going to die, but something in me clung to life. Suddenly, I saw a shadow on the street. It was Don Miguel, my neighbor, an old man with a wrinkled face who always brought me mangoes from his tree. He saw the pool of blood and shouted, calling his wife Doña Rosa. Together they ran to get help, knocking on neighbors' doors. Don Miguel called the ambulance, and Doña Rosa prayed aloud, asking the Virgin to save me. I spent 40 minutes alone, life escaping my body. The smell of blood mixed with the scent of pastries, and the radio kept playing, as if the world didn't know what was happening. When the locksmith opened the door, the paramedics rushed in, their white uniforms stained with dust. They lifted me carefully, but every movement was new pain. In the ambulance, I heard the sirens, but my mind was clouded. At the hospital, 30 doctors worked for hours to save me. I suffered 15 stab wounds to my neck, chest, arms. My hands were cut, and my right shoe, with a deep gash, was a reminder of the miracle that kept me alive. I lost so much blood that my brain swelled, and I suffered a stroke. I was intubated, and for 6 days I was trapped between life and death, with machines breathing for me. When I woke up, I didn't understand why I was alive. My Aunt Elena, whom I loved like a mother, was by my side, her eyes red from crying so much. I couldn't speak because of the tube in my throat, but I asked for a paper with a weak gesture. I wrote with a trembling hand, "I love you. I'm okay." I wanted her to know that my mind was clear, that I wasn't in a vegetative state, as the doctors feared. While I was sedated, I heard fragments of conversations between the doctors and my family. My mother, Luz, talked with Juan, saying that Pedro had been arrested on Saturday, just a day after the attack. He confessed that Mariana and Rafael hired him, along with Lucas, for 4,000 pesos to kill me. They wanted to avoid paying the 8,000 pesos debt I claimed in court with Juan's help. Mariana used the name Fabiola to trick me, sending letters to make sure I was alone. My friend's betrayal, with whom I shared dreams, laughs, and entire afternoons planning our future, hurt almost as much as the stab wounds. But what weighed most on my heart was thinking of Mariana's daughter, a 5-month-old baby who was innocent. How could a mother do something like that, knowing she would leave her daughter alone? The days in the hospital were a struggle I still feel in my bones. My body was weak, my left hand paralyzed by the stroke, and the doctors murmured among themselves, doubting I would walk again. But my heart, though wounded, kept beating, and my faith kept me alive. Tiago was always by my side, holding my hand, writing notes to make me laugh despite the tube in my throat. One afternoon, when I could barely move my fingers, he passed me a paper where he wrote, "Clara, will you marry me?" My eyes filled with tears, and with effort I wrote, "Yes," scribbling the letters as if they were a treasure. My mother, Luz, slept on the hospital floor, with an old blanket praying to the Virgin of the Conception, my protector. My Aunt Elena read psalms to me, her soft voice calming the fear that squeezed my chest. Juan, with his lawyer's briefcase, came and went, fighting for justice while I fought to live. While I was sedated, I heard pieces of the truth. As if I was dreaming, Juan told my mother that Pedro, the man who stabbed me, was arrested on Saturday, caught by the police in a neighborhood bar. He confessed everything, saying that Mariana and Rafael hired him for 4,000 pesos, a miserable sum to take my life. Lucas, the other attacker, surrendered on Sunday, afraid of being caught. Mariana and Rafael also went to the police station, but not out of remorse, but to avoid a harsher sentence. Their cold faces, according to Juan, showed no guilt, only calculation. Mariana, my friend, the girl with whom I shared dreams and laughs, had planned my death with fake letters, using the name Fabiola to trick me. Every word she wrote was a step towards my grave, and that hurt me more than the stab wounds. But what broke my soul was thinking of Mariana's daughter, an innocent baby who would grow up without her mother. I wondered how someone could be so cruel, so blind, to do that to her own flesh and blood. In the hospital, my body was a map of scars. The 15 stab wounds left marks on my neck, my chest, my arms. My hands, cut from trying to stop the knife, trembled when I touched anything. My right shoe, with a deep gash, was kept by my mother as a symbol of my survival. The doctors said it was a miracle I was alive, that the voice I heard, the one that told me to pretend to be dead, saved me. But the stroke left sequelae. My left hand didn't respond, and my legs felt like lead. I spent hours staring at the ceiling with tubes and machines around me, wondering why God had let me live. Sometimes I closed my eyes and saw Pedro's face, his cold gaze, or Mariana's laughing in the days when we were friends. The trauma of the abuse I suffered as a child, which I had buried for years, returned with force, mixed with the fear of the attack. I woke up screaming, dreaming that the knife was back in my chest. Tiago and my family were my anchor. Tiago told me stories of our first date, when I spilled coffee on his shirt, and we laughed until we cried. Elena brought me flowers from my mother's patio, and their scent reminded me that there was still beauty in the world. My mother, with her rosary in hand, told me, "Clara, the Virgin saved you, don't give up." Juan, always serious, promised me that those responsible would pay. But he also told me that my strength was greater than their hate. The news of my survival spread through Medellin, and people began to call me the miraculous one. Neighbors, strangers, even journalists came to the hospital, leaving letters and candles. The police put guards at my door because the case became famous, a scandal that shook the neighborhood. But I didn't want fame. I just wanted to be myself again, the Clara who baked pastries and dreamed of a simple life. After 15 days, the doctors discharged me, but my life was no longer the same. I returned home in a wheelchair, with my left hand motionless and my heart full of fear. My mother decorated the house with flowers, as if it were my birthday. But I couldn't stop looking at the emptiness. The bakery was closed with the metal curtain down, and the smell of blood seemed ingrained in my memory. Tiago and Juan took me to the place one afternoon, and upon entering, I cried. The pastries were rotten, the counter stained, but something in me lit up. I couldn't let them take my dream away. I decided to reopen the bakery, even though my body and soul were broken. Juan paid a carpenter to fix the door, and Tiago cleaned every corner with me. Don Miguel, with his trembling hands, brought a mango and told me, "Clara, you are stronger than all of this." His words were engraved in my heart. The following months were a trial by fire. Physical therapy was exhausting, with exercises to move my left hand, which barely responded. Sessions with a psychologist, a kind woman with warm eyes, helped me face the trauma. But the fear was still there, hidden in every shadow. I dreamed of Pedro, of the knife, of Mariana laughing as I bled. But I also dreamed of the voice that saved me, and that gave me hope. Tiago never left my side, bringing flowers, making jokes, reminding me that I was loved. My mother and Elena cooked for me, and Juan fought in court, making sure the culprits didn't escape. The bakery reopened, with a new sign and pastries I prepared with effort, even though my hand trembled. Neighbors came, not just for the sweets, but to hug me, to tell me it was a miracle, and I, little by little, began to believe it. Reopening, the bakery was like being born again, but every step was a struggle. The smell of vanilla and sugar filled the air again, and the radio played cumbia, like in the happy days. But my left hand trembled when decorating cakes, and my heart raced every time an unknown customer entered. The trauma of the attack, mixed with the pain of the abuse I suffered as a child, haunted me. Sometimes I looked at the counter and saw bloodstains that weren't there, only in my memory. Nights were the worst. I woke up screaming with the echo of the knife in my chest. Tiago slept by my side, hugging me until the fear faded. "Clara, you're here. You're alive," he would say, and his words were like a beacon in the darkness. My mother, Luz, prayed non-stop, leaving candles lit before an image of the Virgin. My Aunt Elena brought me chamomile tea, and Juan, always practical, told me that time would heal the wounds. But time, although it softens, does not erase. Justice moved slowly. Juan told me the details, though I didn't always want to hear them. Pedro, Lucas, Mariana, and Rafael were accused of attempted murder. Pedro, the cold-eyed man, showed no remorse, according to the police. Lucas, weaker, cried when confessing, saying he only followed orders for money. Mariana and Rafael, on the other hand, acted as if they were victims, saying it was a misunderstanding. Juan discovered that Rafael had paid the 4,000 pesos, using drug debts to convince Pedro and Lucas. Mariana, with her clumsy handwriting, wrote the Fabiola letters, planning every detail to ensure I was alone. Knowing that my friend, with whom I shared dreams and laughs, had calculated my death with such coldness, broke my soul. But what hurt me most was thinking of Mariana's daughter, a 5-month-old baby who didn't deserve to grow up without her mother. I wondered if Mariana ever thought of her when planning the crime. The bakery, little by little, became a refuge again. Neighbors filled the place, bringing flowers, fruits, words of encouragement. Don Miguel, with his cane and his wrinkled smile, arrived every morning with a mango and told me, "Clara, you are a miracle, don't forget it." Doña Rosa, his wife, prayed rosaries for me, and the neighborhood children came to ask for sweets, calling me the pastry lady. Their laughter gave me strength, although my left hand remained weak, unable to hold a pastry bag as before. I hired Rosa, my old assistant, to help me, and she, with her quick hands, decorated the cakes while I attended to customers. Tiago spent afternoons with me, cleaning the oven, making jokes to make me smile. Juan, with his lawyer's briefcase, came on weekends, bringing papers to sign and news of the case. He told me not to worry, that he would take care of everything. But I knew that justice would not heal the emptiness I felt. In 1981, a year after the attack, Tiago and I got married. It was a simple ceremony, in the neighborhood church with white flowers and a guava cake I baked with Rosa's help. My mother cried with joy, and Elena danced cumbia until midnight. Juan was the best man, serious as always, but with a smile he couldn't hide. Tiago looked into my eyes and promised to love me always, even with my scars, even with my nightmares. That day, for the first time in months, I felt I could be happy again. But happiness came with shadows. Physical therapy was exhausting, and the psychologist, a soft-spoken woman, helped me face the trauma. But the fear was still there. I dreamed of the knife, of Pedro's voice, of Mariana's face, laughing as I bled. Sometimes I woke up trembling, and Tiago hugged me, whispering that everything would be okay. The bakery grew over time. Customers came from other neighborhoods, attracted by the story of the miraculous one. I opened a second branch in 1985 with Juan's help, who invested more money. I hired women from the neighborhood, many of them single mothers, and taught them to bake, to decorate, to dream. I wanted them to have what I almost lost, an opportunity. My left hand improved a little, but it never returned to normal. I learned to use my right hand for everything, to adapt, to not give up. Tiago and I had 2 children, Ana and Diego, who filled our house with laughter and chaos. Ana, with her braids, always wanted to help in the bakery, and Diego, mischievous, stole pieces of dough. They were my reason to go on, although the nightmares never completely went away. In 1987, the trial ended. Mariana and Rafael were sentenced to 15 years in prison, Pedro to 20, and Lucas to 10 for confessing. Juan took me to court on the last day, but I didn't want to look at Mariana. I didn't want to see her eyes. I didn't want to know if she had changed. It was enough for me to know that justice had done its part. But the conviction did not heal the wound of betrayal, nor the pain of knowing that my friend wanted to kill me for 8,000 pesos. I kept the cut shoe in a box, along with a photo of the bakery the day it reopened. It was my trophy, not of victory, but of life. Sometimes I looked at it and cried, not out of hate, but out of sorrow. Sorrow for the young woman I was, full of dreams, who almost didn't make it. Sorrow for Mariana's daughter, who grew up without her parents, carrying a weight that wasn't hers. As the years passed, the bakery became a small chain with 3 branches in Medellin. I became known not only for the pastries, but for helping other women. I gave free baking classes, sharing recipes and tips. I wanted them to know what I almost lost, an opportunity. But the trauma was still there, hidden in the corners of my soul. Sometimes a loud noise would make me jump, or a stranger's gaze would remind me of Pedro. Tiago, with his infinite patience, helped me breathe, to remember that I was safe. The years brought a calm I never imagined possible, but also challenges that reminded me how fragile life is. While my bakery grew, I learned to live with the scars, both those visible on my skin and those I carried in my soul. Tiago and I built a life full of love, with Ana and Diego growing strong and curious. Ana, with her bright eyes, spent hours in the bakery, learning to decorate cakes with sugar flowers. Diego, always restless, ran through the shop, stealing pieces of dough and making customers laugh. They were my light, but also my responsibility, and sometimes I feared not being strong enough for them. The trauma of the attack was still there, hidden in the most unexpected moments. A slamming door, the gleam of a knife in the kitchen, or even the smell of imaginary blood would make me tremble. The psychologist taught me to breathe deeply, to count to 10, but the fear was like a shadow that never completely left. Tiago was my rock. Every night, when nightmares woke me, he would hug me, whispering, "Clara, you're here, with me." His voice was my refuge, and his love, my strength. But he also carried his own burden, working long hours as a mechanic to help me with the bakery. Juan, my brother-in-law, remained a pillar, visiting us on weekends with his briefcase full of papers and a tired smile. After the trial, he became a well-known lawyer in Medellin, but he never stopped worrying about me. He brought me news of the world, but avoided talking about Mariana and Rafael, knowing their names still hurt. My mother, Luz, aged gracefully, sewing dresses for Ana and telling her stories of her youth. My Aunt Elena, with her contagious laughter, continued to bring flowers from the patio, filling the house with color. They were my family, my network, and without them, I wouldn't have survived. In 1990, a new blow arrived during a routine checkup. Doctors discovered a problem with my heart, a congenital condition aggravated by the stroke I suffered in 1980. They said the stress of the attack and blood loss had weakened my body, and I needed surgery. Fear returned, not for myself, but for Ana and Diego, who were only 6 and 4 years old. What if I didn't make it? Tiago, with tear-filled eyes, took my hand and said, "Clara, you've already defeated death once. This won't stop you." My mother prayed for days, and Elena organized a prayer chain with the neighbors. Juan paid for part of the surgery, though he never admitted it. The operation was a success, but it left me weak for months, with orders to rest and avoid stress. Rest, for a woman like me, was almost impossible. The bakery was my life, and I couldn't abandon it. I returned to work more determined than ever. I hired more women, all with stories of struggle, and gave them a place to shine. One of them, Carmen, had lost her husband and was raising 3 children alone. I taught her to bake, and soon her chocolate cakes were the most requested. Another, Luisa, had escaped from a man who beat her. I gave her an apron and a purpose, and her smile slowly returned. Helping them healed me, as if every cake we baked together closed a wound. The bakery became more than a business. It was a home, a place where broken women could rebuild themselves. Customers knew it, and came not only for the sweets, but for the stories, for the magic of a place touched by a miracle. In 2000, I learned that Mariana and Rafael had been released from prison. Juan told me carefully, sitting at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee in his hands. He said Mariana lived in another city, alone, and that Rafael had disappeared. I felt no hatred, only a deep sadness. I wondered if Mariana ever thought of her daughter, who must have been about 20 years old. I wondered if she ever felt guilty for what she did. I kept the cut shoe in a box, along with a photo of the bakery the day it reopened, and decided not to look back. But life, as always, had other plans. In 2010, Tiago started to feel unwell. At first, it was small pains, tiredness we attributed to age. But one day, while repairing a car, he fainted. Doctors found a tumor in his lung, and although he fought with all his heart, he died in 2015, at 60 years old. Losing him was like losing a part of myself. Ana and Diego, already adults, held me up. But the emptiness was immense. Tiago was my love, my partner, the man who saw me at my worst, and never stopped loving me. I kept his favorite shirt, which still smelled of him, and every night I hugged it, crying in silence. but his voice remained in my head, telling me, "Clara, keep going." And I did, for him, for my children, for myself. The bakery continued to grow, and in 2020, at 63, I had 5 branches in Medellin. Ana became manager with her talent for numbers, and Diego, a chef at heart, created new recipes that filled the place with aromas. My grandchildren, Ana's children, ran through the bakery, stealing sweets like Diego did as a child. I taught women from the neighborhood, gave talks in churches, shared my story with anyone who wanted to listen. I wanted them to know that pain is not the end, that there is always a light on the other side. But the trauma never completely left. My left hand still trembled, and loud noises made me jump. Sometimes I dreamed of Pedro, with his knife, or of Mariana, laughing as I bled. But I also dreamed of the voice that saved me, and that gave me peace. In 2024, something unexpected happened. A woman knocked on my door, her face nervous and her eyes filled with tears. It was Sofia, Mariana's daughter, now 44 years old. She asked for forgiveness, trembling, and said that her mother, before dying in prison, confessed that the attack was due to jealousy of my success and the fear Rafael instilled in her. Sofia carried the weight of that guilt, although it wasn't hers. I looked at her, remembering the innocent baby, and felt a strange peace. It wasn't hatred I felt, not even pain. It was sorrow, but also hope. Sitting on my balcony with Sofia in front of me, I felt time stand still. Her eyes, so much like Mariana's, were filled with tears, and her voice trembled as she spoke. She apologized again and again, as if words could erase the past. "Doña Clara, my mother told me everything before she died," she said, squeezing her hands. "She said she envied you, that she feared Rafael would leave her if she didn't do what he wanted. She never thought of me, of what her decision would do to me. Listening to her was like opening an old wound, but also like releasing a weight I had carried for years. I didn't see Mariana in her. I didn't see the friend who betrayed me. I saw a broken woman seeking peace. I invited her in, offered her coffee, and we sat in the living room, surrounded by photos of my children and grandchildren. The aroma of coffee filled the air, and for a moment I felt that God was there, guiding us. Sofia told me her life story, a struggle that broke my heart. She grew up with her grandmother, a humble woman who could barely support her. She never knew her father, Rafael, who disappeared after being released from prison. Her mother, Mariana, died in 2018, alone in a cell, consumed by guilt and illness. Sofia was 5 months old when the attack happened, and the shadow of that crime followed her throughout her life. At school, children called her daughter of murderers, and she carried that shame like a cross. But she was also strong, like me. She worked as a primary school teacher, teaching children from poor neighborhoods, and had raised a daughter alone, a 10-year-old girl who dreamed of becoming a doctor. "I came because I needed you to know I'm sorry," Sofia said, her voice breaking. "I don't want you to think I'm like her." I looked at her, and something in me softened. "Sofia, you are not your mother," I told her. "You are a good woman, and your daughter is your miracle. Don't carry what doesn't belong to you." I hugged her, and we cried together. It wasn't hatred I felt, not even pain. It was sorrow for the young woman Mariana could have been, for the daughter she left behind, for the time she lost. But it was also hope, because Sofia was there, seeking redemption, and I could offer it to her. I told her my story, not to hurt her, But so she would understand, I told her about the 15 stab wounds, about the cut shoe I keep as a trophy of life, about the voice that told me to pretend to be dead. I told her about Tiago, about his love that sustained me, about my children who gave me purpose. I told her I forgave her, not for Mariana, but for her, because she deserved to live without that guilt. When she left, she gave me a drawing her daughter had made, a bright sun with flowers. I hung it on the bakery wall, next to the photos of my grandchildren, as a reminder that forgiveness is a gift we give ourselves. That encounter changed something in me. For years, I had carried Mariana like a thorn in my heart. But now I could let her go. I wouldn't forget. I would never forget. But I could move forward without resentment. My left hand still trembled, a sequela of the stroke I suffered in 1980. But I was no longer ashamed. I used my right hand for everything. To bake, to hug my grandchildren, to write letters to the women I helped. The bakery, with its 5 branches, was more than a business. It was a legacy, a place where women could find strength, as I did. Anna, my daughter, managed the accounts with a precision that made me proud, and Diego, with his chef's talent, created pastries that attracted customers from all over Medellin. My grandchildren, Sofia and Mateo, ran through the shop, stealing sweets and laughing, like Diego did as a child. Every laugh of theirs was a victory, proof that love always wins. Juan, now retired, came on Sundays with his wife, Clara, bringing mangoes from his garden. He was still the same serious man, but his eyes lit up when talking about his grandchildren. One afternoon, while we were having coffee, he asked me how I was after seeing Sofia. "Juan, I feel peace," I told him. "It's not that the pain is gone, but it no longer controls me." He nodded, squeezing my hand. "Clara, I always knew you were stronger than all of us." His words made me smile, but also think about the journey from that Friday in 1980, when I thought I would die, until today. Every day had been a choice, to continue, to love, to forgive. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. My mother, Luz, died in 2017 at 85, with a smile on her face. Until the end, she sewed dresses for the neighbors and prayed for me. My Aunt Elena, at 80, still lived in the same adobe house, tending her flowers and telling me jokes. They were my roots, my strength, and their love reminded me that I was never alone. Tiago, though gone, lived in every corner of my life. His favorite shirt, which still smelled of him, was still in my closet, and sometimes I hugged it, feeling his warmth. Ana and Diego with their families filled me with pride. Ana, with her brilliant mind, planned to open a 6th branch, and Diego dreamed of writing a cookbook. My grandchildren, with their laughter and mischief, were my daily joy. The bakery continued to be a refuge for the women of the neighborhood. Carmen, who started as an assistant, now had her own branch, and Luisa, who escaped violence, opened a small cafe with my recipes. I gave free classes on Saturdays, teaching young mothers, women who, like me, had faced darkness, how to bake. I told them my story, not to boast, but to show them that pain is not the end. If I could do it, you can too, I would tell them, and their eyes shone with hope. Sometimes I looked at the cut shoe, kept in its box, and felt gratitude, not for the pain, but for the life that came after. On my balcony, with the coffee cooling, I think about what I learned. Life is fragile, but love and faith are stronger than any knife. Every scar, every tremor of my hand is a reminder that I survived. I want my story to inspire others, to show them that forgiveness is not weakness, that strength is born from the heart. Sophia, with her drawing, gave me an unexpected gift, the certainty that my life, with all its pain, had touched another soul. As the sun sets behind the mountains of Medellin, the sky turns orange, and the air brings a fresh scent that makes me close my eyes. Every sunset is a reminder that I am here, alive, despite everything. After my encounter with Sophia, something in my heart settled, as if a lost puzzle piece had found its place. It wasn't that the pain disappeared, because pain never completely goes away, but it no longer defined me. I could look at the past without feeling like I was drowning, and that, for a woman who almost died at 25, was a victory. The bakery, my children, my grandchildren, the women I helped, all of that was my legacy. But so was my ability to forgive, to choose light, even after the deepest darkness. The days following the encounter with Sophia were strangely peaceful. I woke up early, as always, to prepare coffee and bake a small cake, one I left on the table for my grandchildren when they visited. Sophia, the eldest at 8 years old, always came running, asking me to teach her how to decorate with sugar flowers. Mateo, 5, preferred to eat raw dough, laughing as I pretended to scold him. Anna, my daughter, stopped by the bakery at noon, with her briefcase full of papers, planning the opening of a 6th branch. "Mom, this is for you," she would tell me, and I would smile, though I knew her strength came from herself. Diego, my son, arrived at dusk, with new recipes we would try together, laughing when something went wrong. They were my joy, my reason to go on, but they also reminded me how much Tiago would have loved to see them grow. His absence was a wound that never healed, but his love lived in every laugh, in every cake we baked. Juan, my brother-in-law, remained a constant presence. At 70, with white hair and a softer smile, he came on Sundays with his wife, Clara, bringing mangoes from his garden. We sat on the patio, remembering the days when the bakery was just a dream, when he risked his savings to help me. "Clara, I always knew you were special," he once told me, and his words made me think about the journey. From that Friday in 1980, when 15 stab wounds almost took my life, until today, every day had been a choice. To get up, to work, to love. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. Juan asked me about Sophia, and I told him how her visit had brought me peace. "To forgive is not to forget," I told him. "It is to let go." He nodded, squeezing my hand, and I knew he understood. My mother, Luz, and my Aunt Elena were the roots that kept me standing. Although my mother died in 2017, her faith lived on in me. Every time I lit a candle in front of the Virgin of the Conception, I felt her presence, her rough hands caressing my face. Elena, at 80, still lived in the adobe house, tending her flowers and telling me jokes that made me laugh until I cried. One afternoon, while we were having tea in her patio, she told me, "Clara, you are like these flowers, strong even when the wind tries to tear you away." Her words were etched in my heart, and I promised to carry them with me always. The bakery continued to be a refuge for the women of the neighborhood. Carmen, who started as an assistant, now had her own branch, and her chocolate cakes were famous in Medellin. Luisa, who escaped violence, opened a cafe with my recipes, and every time I visited her, she hugged me with tears in her eyes. I gave free classes on Saturdays, teaching young mothers, women who had faced their own battles, how to bake. I told them my story, not to boast, but to show them that pain is not the end. "If I could do it, you can too," I would tell them, and their eyes shone with hope. Sometimes I looked at the cut shoe, kept in a box in my room, and felt gratitude, not for the pain, but for the life that came after, for the voice that told me to pretend to be dead, for the miracle that allowed me to be here. But not everything was peace. My left hand, still trembling from the stroke, reminded me of my limits. I couldn't decorate cakes as before, and that frustrated me. Physical therapy continued, though less frequently, and the psychologist, whom I still saw occasionally, helped me face the trauma. The abuse I suffered at 9, the attack, Mariana's betrayal, all lived within me, like shadows that appeared at the most unexpected moments. A loud noise, a stranger's gaze, or even the gleam of a knife in the kitchen could make me jump. But I learned to breathe, to count to 10, to remember that I was safe. Tiago, though gone, still guided me. I closed my eyes and heard his voice. Clara, keep going. His favorite shirt, which still smelled of him, was in my closet, and sometimes I hugged it, feeling his warmth. My grandchildren gave me life. Sophia, with her curiosity, asked me about the scars on my arms, and I told her a gentle version of the story, saying they were marks of an adventure. Matteo, with his mischievous laugh, asked me to tell him stories, and I invented tales of magical cakes that made the world smile. Ana and Diego, with their families, filled me with pride. Ana planned to expand the bakery to Bogota, and Diego dreamed of writing a cookbook, one that would tell our family's story. They asked me to rest, to stop working, but baking was a part of me. Every cake was a prayer, a way to thank God for every day. One morning, while decorating a cake for a neighbor's birthday, I thought of Sophia, Mariana's daughter. Her visit had stirred memories, but it had also given me clarity. To forgive was not to condone what they did, nor to forget the pain. It was to free myself, to choose peace over resentment. I wrote a letter to Sophia, thanking her for her bravery, telling her I prayed for her and her daughter. I didn't expect a response, but days later her note arrived, with a photo of her smiling child. "Thank you, Doña Clara, for giving me hope," it said. I kept the photo next to the drawing she gave me, on the bakery wall, as a symbol that love can heal even the deepest wounds. On my balcony, with the coffee cooling, I look at the mountains and think about what I learned. Life is a gift, but it's not easy. Every scar, every tremor of my hand is proof that I fought and won. I want my story to inspire others, to show them that forgiveness is strength, that love is greater than hatred. The fresh morning air envelops my balcony, and the aroma of coffee brings me a calm I've learned to value. At 68, every day is an opportunity to give thanks, to remember that I am here by a miracle. Sophia, Mariana's daughter's visit, marked a before and after. It didn't erase the past, but it gave me a peace I didn't know I needed. Forgiving wasn't easy, but it was necessary, like releasing a stone I had carried for too long. Now, as I look at the mountains of Medellin, I think about what it means to live after having faced death. It's not just surviving, it's choosing life, love, hope, even when the world tries to extinguish you. The bakery continues to be the heart of my world. Every morning I light the oven, mix flour and sugar, and feel that I am honoring my mother, Tiago, myself. Ana, my daughter, arrives at noon with her briefcase, reviewing accounts and planning the opening of a 6th branch. She is a strong woman, with the same determination I had at her age, but with a confidence I never had. Diego, my son, appears at dusk, bringing new recipes we try together, laughing when a cake comes out too sweet or a little burnt. My grandchildren, Sophia and Matteo, fill the place with laughter, stealing pieces of dough, and leaving flower footprints everywhere. Sophia, at 8, asks me to tell her stories from when I was young, and I tell her about the happy days, about afternoons dancing cumbia with my mother, about the cakes we baked together. I don't tell her the dark parts. Not yet. I want her to grow up with the light, not with the shadows. Juan, my brother-in-law, still comes on Sundays, now with a cane, but with the same serious look that gave me strength after the attack. His wife, Clara, brings sweets from her garden, and we sit and talk about the old days. One afternoon, while we were eating mangoes, Juan asked me if I ever thought of writing my story. "Clara, what you lived is a testimony," he said. "You could inspire many." I laughed, saying I'm not a writer, but his words stayed with me. Maybe I won't write a book, but every cake I bake, every woman I help, is a way of telling my story. The bakery is not just a business, it's a place where wounds turn into strength, where women find purpose. Carmen, who now has her own branch, visits me sometimes, bringing her children, who are already teenagers. Luisa, with her cafe, sends me photos of her new desserts, thanking me for every lesson I taught her. They are my extended family, a reminder that pain can transform into something beautiful. My left hand, still trembling from the stroke, forces me to go slower. I can't decorate cakes as before, but I've learned to adapt, to use my right hand for everything. Physical therapy is less frequent, but I still see my psychologist occasionally. She helps me face the trauma, which never completely goes away. The abuse I suffered at 9, the attack, Mariana's betrayal, are shadows that appear at the most unexpected moments. A loud noise, a stranger's gaze, or the gleam of a knife in the kitchen can make me jump. But I've learned to breathe, to count to 10, to remember that I'm safe. Tiago, though gone, is still with me. I close my eyes and hear his voice. "Clara, keep going." His favorite shirt, which still smells of him, is in my closet, and sometimes I hug it, feeling his warmth. My grandchildren keep me young. Sophia wants to be a baker like me, and Mateo says he'll be an astronaut, although yesterday he wanted to be a pirate. Their laughter fills the house, and their questions make me laugh. "Grandma, why does your hand shake?" Sophia once asked me. I told her it's because my body holds stories, but my heart is strong. Ana and Diego, with their families, fill me with pride. Ana plans to expand the bakery to Bogota, and Diego is writing a cookbook, one that will tell our family's story. They ask me to rest, to stop working. But baking is a part of me. Every cake is a prayer, a way to thank God for every day He gave me. One morning, while decorating a cake for a wedding, I thought of the voice that saved me in 1980. "Stop. Pretend you're dead," it said. And I obeyed, although everything in me wanted to keep fighting. That voice, which I believe was God, gave me a second chance. Sometimes I look at the cut shoe, kept in a box in my room, and feel gratitude, not for the pain, but for the life that came after. The 15 stab wounds left scars that I still see in the mirror, but they also remind me that I am stronger than I imagined. I kept a photo of the bakery the day it reopened, with Tiago and Juan smiling by my side. It's a reminder that I wasn't alone, that love sustained me when all seemed lost. My mother, Luz, taught me to pray, to trust in the Virgin of the Conception. Although she died, her faith lives in me. Every night I light a candle and pray for my children, my grandchildren, the women I help. I also pray for Sofia, Mariana's daughter, and her child, so they may find peace. Her visit showed me that forgiveness is not only for those who hurt, but for those who carry the consequences. I wrote a letter to Sofia, thanking her for her bravery. telling her I prayed for her. Her response, with a photo of her smiling daughter, is on the bakery wall, next to the drawing she gave me. It's a symbol that love can heal even the deepest wounds. On my balcony, with the coffee cooling, I think about what it means to be a miracle. It's not just surviving. It's choosing to live with purpose. Every scar, every tremor of my hand is proof that I fought and won. I want my story to inspire others, to show them that forgiveness is strength, that love is greater than hatred. The bakery, with its aromas and laughter, is my legacy. But my greatest pride is having transformed pain into hope, having helped other women find their light. Every scar, every tremor of my hand is proof that I fought and won. I hope these words reach you, that you feel them, that you keep them, because we all face our own battles, and we can all find a light at the end. So, as the stars shine over Medellin, I give thanks for every day, for every cake, for every hug. My life wasn't easy, but it was beautiful, because I chose to live it with an open heart. May my story be a candle in your darkness, a reminder that love always wins,